Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Abby, and today in the kitchen we are going to be making my absolute favorite food of all time, bread. I love bread, especially this hearty artisan loaf. It's one of my favorite things. We've been making it all of the time. I don't currently make sourdough, so this is a yeasted bread. However, you do cook it in a Dutch oven. It gets really crusty like a good sourdough loaf. You can do fun scoring patterns on the top if that's your thing, but it does not take quite as long as sourdough because it does have yeast in it. So I will be showing you two ways to do this. There's a no knead method and a method that you do knead it so it comes together a little bit quicker. So let's jump into it and I will show you how to do this. All right, so we're gonna start out with 3 cups of flour. I do have a baby in the kitchen with me if you hear her cooing away. She is going to love bread one day as well, I'm convinced. 3 cups of flour is what you're gonna start with. I'm just using all purpose because that's what I keep on hand. Then we have 1.5 cups of water that I've prepped. We need 2 teaspoons of salt. And this is where it's going to be up to you how you want to make this bread. If you think of it far enough in advance, you can do a no knead bread, which just takes a half a teaspoon of yeast because the gluten will develop, very slowly, kind of overnight if you start this 12 to 24 hours before you knead it. Here we go. But I did not plan that far in advance. So we just put 2¼ teaspoons of yeast in since I don't have time to let this sit and let the gluten kind of develop over time. We're just going to knead it, which will speed up the gluten development, and we used a little extra yeast to help us in that process as well. But if you think of this the night before you knead it, if you think of this the night before you want to eat it, then you can just use a tiny bit of yeast. You just kind of mix it around and let it sit there, and the gluten will develop very slowly overnight, which is super cool. But again, I just didn't plan that far in advance. So we are going to use a little bit more yeast, 2¼ teaspoons. That's the amount that's in one of those little yeast packets from the store, but I buy my yeast in bulk. And then we're going to mix it all together. I just do this with my hand typically, but you are welcome to use a stand mixer if that is your preference. I just think there's something so fun about kneading bread together. So therapeutic. This is a little bit of a stickier dough, so I'm going to add just a tiny bit more flour and work that in together. Again, you can totally do this with a stand mixer if that's your preference, but it doesn't take too much kneading to get this to come together, so I just use my hands. One less thing to worry about putting in the dishwasher. All right, now that this came together, I'm gonna try to get as much off my hands as possible. All right. I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to need to rise. Sometimes it's ready in maybe an hour or so, but it is the middle of winter right now and our house is a little bit cooler. So I am gonna put it into, back into this bowl in my oven with the light on. Don't turn your oven on, just turn the light on. So it gives it a little bit of warmth to help it rise a little bit quicker. So let me spray this bowl quick. All right, we're just gonna plop this in here. Put the lid on and set this in the oven for a little bit. All right, our bread has been rising for about like an hour and a half. You can see it's nice and puffy. probably about doubled in size. We're just gonna pull this out of the bowl. All right, and we're just gonna kind of like fold it into itself. This is not necessary, I just think it helps it rise a little bit better. So we have this nice ball, and you're just gonna like flop it on the counter and then kind of pull it towards you and then do it again. Again, this part is optional. I just think it just helps give your bread a little bit more structure. You can see it's a nice ball now. All right, so while the Dutch oven and the oven preheat to 400 degrees, we're gonna let this sit here and rise for a second time. We're gonna preheat our oven to 400 degrees, and you're gonna wanna take your Dutch oven and stick it in so it can get hot with the oven as well. All right, it has been about 25 minutes. Our oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and so is our Dutch oven that has been in there the entire time. So we're going to make just one cut on our bread. I don't know if you've seen the really cool, like different scoring patterns people do on sourdough. You are welcome to do that if you would like. It will turn out just fine on this bread, but I just do one giant slit. Or you don't have to do any cuts. You can just leave it and it'll burst open on its own. All right, remember this is hot, very hot. Just drop your bread down in there, put the lid on, and we're gonna cook this for 30 minutes with the lid on. After your bread's been cooking for 30 minutes, you're gonna go ahead and take the lid off and let it cook for about 10 more minutes just to give it a really nice crisp crust. Now that our bread is going, we're going to work on our dipping oil. I have never made dipping oil before, but today feels like a good day to start. I'm going to, do the Abby method where I kind of measure things, but not really. So we're gonna start with 1 tablespoon of fresh basil. I do not have fresh basil, but I have freeze-dried basil from our garden. So we're just gonna say that looks like about a tablespoon. Then we need half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Half a teaspoon red pepper flakes. No, I can't read my own writing. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So we'll just do that. 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Perfect. Then it says 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm currently out of Italian seasoning, so we're just going to use some thyme and parsley. The thyme I grew myself, the parsley I did not. Next year though. So that looks about right. 1 teaspoon of garlic. I just have this garlic in our fridge for occasions like this. Then we need 2 teaspoons of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, which I'll probably end up doing more than 2 teaspoons because Parmesan cheese makes everything better. That looks delicious. Okay, so now that we have all of the spices, we're gonna add 1/3 cup of oil. And then the recipe also calls for some balsamic vinegar, but we don't have that. So we're just gonna do oil. I'm using avocado oil today, but you can use whatever you have on hand. We just do most of our baking with avocado oil. All right, then we're gonna mix it around. It looks so good. I need this bread to be finished so we can taste test it. All right, as soon as the bread comes out of the oven, we will give this a try. Look how good this turned out. I feel like this loaf never disappoints, so we're gonna let it cool down a little bit and then we will do a taste test. All right, you're supposed to wait till this is cool to cut into it, but we are not going to do that. So there it is, delicious. All right, we're gonna try a little bit with our dipping oil. And this is a trick to cut bread. If you didn't know that, I saw someone do this and it like blew my mind. But you cut it in half once and then you just cut down a whole bunch of pieces that way. So you're not like squishing your bread the whole time. You probably already knew that hack, but blew my mind. All right, we have our bread. We have our dipping oil. Gotta give it a shot. We know the bread's good because I've made it before. We've never done dipping oil though. That's good too. You can't go wrong. All right, thank you for joining me today. I hope this inspires you to try making your own artisan bread at home. And I'm gonna go finish snacking on this. So have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.